Hello, everyone. Welcome to Alchemized Women. My guest today is Alison Cohen. Alison's whole work is about wanting, strengthening our capacity to connect with ourselves, with each other, with wisdom traditions that came before us. Her own path turned on a single retreat she went to as a young adult after a really hard stretch. It changed the direction of her life. Now she guides Two Wings Mindfulness, offering trauma-sensitive courses and retreats. She has mentored in Power of Awareness, MMTCP, and taught in Tara Brach's Year of Courageous Loving and Choosing to Love courses. Alison, thank you for being here.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Fine, fine. I'm very happy.
Yes, I just want to express such gratitude. Thank you, Muga. This is such a treat.
Thank you, Alison, being part of this and taking your time for us and for me, for our audience. Thank you.
Hmm.
Mm. Listen, I really wonder how you started meditation. How, what in life just bring you to meditation?
Hmm. Thank you so much, Muga. When I was 20, I guess I was 21 or 22, I was in my last year of college, my last year of university. And I was just going through a really difficult time on
Mm.
so many levels. It was a period of significant transition. I didn't know what I was going to be doing after university. I was also navigating a variety of family challenges. And I know this is a relatable part. The harsh inner critic was extremely loud. And I was navigating also, I know I've said the word navigating several times, but that's truly how it felt. Like I was in a boat attempting to navigate all different kinds of waters, moment by moment by moment. And I went to meet with an advisor at at school. And among other things, she suggested therapy, always a gift. And in addition, it turned out that the organization she was responsible for was offering introductory meditation classes. And so I went to this drop-in class, actually taught by a Zen teacher, a woman named Kathy. And I felt nervous and uncertain about what we were going to be embarking on. But then she guided us through some basic practices. And the second we received the invitation to close our eyes, tears began to well up. And there was this recognition. I don't know if you've heard this before, Muga, but I was on a retreat last year where the teacher, Erin Treat, offered that another way we might conceive of or understand mindfulness practice is as contactfulness. We're making
Mm.
contact, compassionate contact with what's actually happening.
Mm.
And I realized that because the inner world had felt so harsh and difficult to wade my way through, I had been doing everything in my power to avoid it, to run from
Mhm.
it, to get away. And then here I was in this circle with a deeply kind group of peers and a deeply kind teacher. And the invitation was to make contact with the breath, with the body, with the heart. So the tears began to flow. And what was so extraordinary, though it was also so simple and ordinary at the same time, is that I noticed the teacher was not concerned or stressed or afraid of or worried by all the emotions that were moving through me. There was a sense in our connection, speaking of
Mm.
connection, speaking of contact, that she had the space, the spaciousness, the allowance for these natural energies in motion, because that's what emotions are, to move through me. And she wasn't going to ask me to leave because there were tears or leave because the emotions were so felt so significant. She was there, steady, anchored, to honor that this was my
Mm.
experience in a given moment. and a seed was planted, what would it be like to be able to show up for myself and my own inner world in that way? And simultaneously, there was an understanding I will always need other people because that's how we're wired for co-regulation, wired for care, and wired to, in a sense, Muga, have someone else model for us. It's okay, sweetheart. This is what it means to be human. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. We sometimes think that we need to handle everything alone, or we
Yeah.
should be able to do that. This is the correct way for so many women. Like it's like a warrior woman's like I need to do all alone. This means I'm strong and I'm here. So it may seem like a weakness
Right.
to ask help or just being in the presence of others, like sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
and what I'll say about that, it's so funny that you mentioned warrior women because as you said that, I was remembering going with a close friend to see the movie Wonder Woman.
Mm.
In that movie, there's this tribe of warrior women, and they're all so deeply interconnected and supportive of one another. And they have this inherent knowledge that the individual and the collective are meant to be interwoven.
Mm.
And in any psycho-spiritual path that's worthwhile, usually there's an understanding that we need guides. So we need teachers of some kind. We need practices and teachings that are valuable to us and help us grow in integrity, presence, joy, connection. And critically, we need people that walk alongside us, that accompany us that remind us, as you just said, we're just not meant to do this alone. That's literally, as mammals, not how we're designed. And yet, so often you'll see on the cover of a magazine someone meditating and they look completely blissed out, which is always interesting to me because at least when I meditate, so many different things are coming up, no matter how calm I look. And then simultaneously on the cover, they're never surrounded by other people.
Yes, you're right.
And it's just such a hilarious experience because really in any tradition that human beings have found meaning and value from that's helped them grow into their best selves, it's involved a deep sense of care and connection
Mm.
to others, both those who are leading and those who are walking alongside. And when you asked me to participate in this, I was really moved that you said, Alison, yes, let's talk about connection and its role in healing and its role in personal development and its role in self-acceptance. Because if we're not doing that, we're leading people, we're leading women, we're leading whoever is receiving this astray. And we're feeding into this 21st century deeply unhealthy, deeply disturbing, deeply destructive perspective that it's okay, just listen to an app, and that's all you need.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. Listen one app, buy this book, one book, and then and do this meditation alone. Wake up at 6 a.m. and sit by yourself. I'm sitting. It's not that I'm not sitting alone, I'm sitting, but what actually changes when another person is simply present with us? I just wonder your thoughts about this or
Yeah,
experience.
totally. So, maybe just in this moment, I'll ask you this question and I'll ask it to all of our community members who are listening. You might just take a moment right now to consider, and you can do this with your eyes closed or eyes
Mm.
open. You might rest a hand on the belly or the heart, or two hands on the heart. I'm just going to be posing some simple reflection questions. you might consider a time in the last year, 2 years, when you were having a difficult moment of some kind. Maybe an emotion like sorrow or anger was moving through, and you were able to connect with another being. It could be that you shared whatever was unfolding with your animal companion, with your dog, as you pet your dog or as you pet your cat. It could be that you were speaking with a dear friend or family member who was truly willing to listen with heart. Or it could be that you were talking to a coach, a teacher, a therapist. Just take a moment right now, and the details may be a little fuzzy, and that's totally fine, to just remember that moment of choosing with courage to vulnerably share the challenge that you were experiencing, to name it aloud, or even to sit in silence, perhaps with tears accompanied by another human being. And now sensing as if you're reliving that moment, just choosing one moment. What did you notice in your heart and your nervous system? What did you notice in the body in that moment as you were accompanied, held, as someone chose to be present for you? It might be that you notice your exhale lengthening. It could be quite subtle, a tension in your belly beginning to relieve. Maybe the heart sensing, oh, this form of compassionate attention, this is love. You may not have recognized any of this in the moment, but something, some wisdom oriented you towards another being and towards their care. And so we'll just take the next few moments in quiet, just bringing curiosity and interest, gentleness to this memory and this choice to turn towards. Turn towards connection. Thank you for experimenting with that reflection, and you might shake things out a bit. Curious, Yuga, how was that for you? What did you notice arise?
Thank you. Thank you for this amazing practice. And it's, I remember the time when I talked to my therapist. It was like holding in compassion. Just she was listening and holding me without giving any recommendation, or making critics about the topic. She was just there listening and nodding and being there with her. And I remembered those moments, and I feel calmer, but in my body, it's just like my neck, my shoulders are softened. It's just my shoulders just
going down, and I feel like all my limbs are like softened. Well, fascia becomes a little bit, I feel the softness in my body. Then I feel a little bit of, it's not shaking, but can we call it maybe trembling in all my body, like a nervous system is just releasing some tension,
Yeah.
and even remembering this memory.
Yeah.
I feel more compassion. I feel compassion in my heart, more love,
Yeah.
this connection,
Yeah.
your voice, when how you held this space, being here with you. And then
Yeah.
I realized this connection, and I'm having you here and guiding me this beautiful practice. And I feel lucky. Then I feel, yeah, my heart felt full of love.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Yuga, you were naming such a beautiful description of being held, of this sense that there was space for you to process and be, and that this person was, in essence, with your suffering, not trying to fix or overcome it. And you used the word compassion several times, and compassion, the root of that is with suffering. What does compassion mean? When you look it up in the dictionary, in an English dictionary at least, it says with suffering. So you pose the question to me, why is it valuable to connect with another person? And much of that is because we're designed to be with one another. And how do we know this? There's interesting scientific research on, for example, when someone is going through a painful experience, a physically painful experience, if they're holding the hand of someone they love and trust and who loves and trusts them, they register a lower level on the pain scale than someone who is undergoing that alone. So there's something that's happening for us psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, where when we feel connected, there's a greater confidence,
Mm-hmm.
groundedness, and knowing I can keep going, I can get through this, and this perhaps isn't as difficult as it would be if I was going at it alone. And well, I'll pause there for a moment. Yeah, how's that landing?
Yeah. It's like our nervous system feels like I'm feeling your nervous system now. And before I understand everything mentally,
Right.
with my mind, with my brain to process, my nervous system is understanding you and the people around us. And they're also connecting to each other. It's like the fungi in the trees.
Yeah.
You don't see the trees are connected, but actually they are connecting the trees together under
Yeah.
the earth. I feel like this. Actually, we are all connected, and when we are together, it's just like we are like breathing more, like more alive. We are more alive.
Totally.
Is it true or yeah?
Yes, definitely. And it speaks to why we can both use very real connections in our lives and imagined connections in our lives to support us in practice. You were saying, I still practice on my own, in addition to practicing in a group or going on retreat. I still practice on my own. And one of the practices that's been really supportive for me is as I take my seat, I imagine human beings all over the planet taking their seats to meditate in different life circumstances, in different time zones, in different, oh, we're choosing to pause and to orient the heart towards growing, towards awakening,
Mm.
towards expanding in wisdom and compassion. Or if I'm feeling really dysregulated, I'll put on a guided meditation. And as you said a few moments ago, listening to the voice of someone whose nervous system is regulated. Wow, I can feel, oh, this connection is helping me make contact with what's here in a more manageable, loving way. And it's not that I want to limit my connection to the imaginal realm or the imaginational realm, if that's a word. I don't want to limit my connection to recordings, but those can be extraordinarily helpful alongside in real time human connection. And whatever we can do to constantly remind the system, you're not alone, sweetheart. There's something in you that tells you you're alone. This is the cultural water that we're often swimming in the 21st century. Just, you're on your own path, you're alone, you're separate, you're this. That's not actually the truth of things. And there are so many different ways we could explore that, of course, Myuga, so many different ways we could explore that when I was reading this passage for primary school students, for second graders, about where we came from. And it said, we're actually made of the same matter as stardust. Stardust recycled. And now here we are. We are stardust. And so it's not only about connection to other human beings. We can look up at the stars and have a moment of, you are me and I am you. And we're part of this interconnected cosmic web. And this is not some made up, no, this is the reality. So how can practice become a practice of more frequent remembering? I am not separate. I am not distant. I am not alone. I am not isolated. I am part and parcel of a web that is yearning for me to take my space and claim my spot and see myself as part of this, in a sense, this miracle.
How do you gently invite someone back to this connection when
Um,
we feel lost?
yeah.
Uh,
What I would say is the most important thing is to connect with a human being who is loving, non-judgmental, and caring.
mm,
That actually, very concretely, the portal to the cosmos is through other people.
yeah.
And often it's when I'm feeling deeply held in love that I also feel deeply held in the cosmic web. Because of our psychological needs, because when we're born, we need to be attached to other beings, other human beings. Sometimes that attachment is less healthy, sometimes it's more healthy. We don't get a choice about that as babies, as young children. We just don't get a choice. And then many of us end up on healing journeys to find healthy, secure attachment, attachment to ourselves, inner attachment that's secure and healthy, attachment to others that's secure and healthy. And also, we could say, attachment to the cosmos that's secure and healthy. And the portal through that, because of how we're wired as mammals, is through other human beings. And so, my first invitation would be to say, if you're feeling really disconnected, which is also just human, we go through ebbs and flows, more connected, less connected, seek human connection. That is, of course, not going to be perfect because no human connection is, but that's going to be good enough from a loving, non-judgmental, kind standpoint. For me, that's been through therapy. That's been through close friendship with other people who are oriented towards healing, towards the messiness of being human, towards really living as ethically and joyously as possible and showing up for each other along the way. And then it also might be, for example, through a meditation teacher, as long as that person is not a guru, because that's dangerous. Not someone who thinks they're above other people. No, they're flawed just like you, but they're interested because they've got a toolkit and knowledge to offer in supporting you along the way while not losing sight of their own flawed humanity.
When my students sees me, like the woman that I practice with my meditation, they
Yeah.
say, "Hey, you are normal." I'm like, yeah, I'm like feeling yellow, sometimes red, like, I like, okay, I have my hair, my earrings. Yeah, it's just like I'm a human. This is how I choose to live. And I'm also practicing it. For sure, I've changed a lot how I
Yeah.
stand in life. But yeah, we are like normal human beings. And then
And we're
this
having
is,
issues in
yeah,
our relationships,
yes,
and
yes,
we're navigating financial difficulties, and
yes.
it doesn't mean that there isn't stuff for us to offer, but there's also so much for us to learn, and we're humans living in the 21st century with all of the challenges that come with that.
Yeah.
And um what keeps coming up for me, Muga, in the last few moments is ultimately appropriate human connections lead us back to stronger connection with ourselves.
Mhm.
Help us remember I am actually my own best teacher, compass, guide. I both benefit from and need the support of others. And may I never override what I know to be true for me and for my, and so there's this paradoxical seek teachers, seek support, and wait a minute. May those connections constantly lead me back to greater clarity, greater knowing, greater trust. And as one of my teachers says, perhaps the entire psycho-spiritual journey, meaning the interwoven psychological and spiritual journey, is about repairing self-trust.
Yeah.
And repairing self-trust is another way of saying, deepening connection with oneself and one's own inner compass. And paradoxically, how do we often do that? By bumping up against other human beings, by interacting with other people, and then learning more and more through a variety of practices, interactions, teachings, tools to stand, to sit, to inhabit our own sacred power.
Jon Kabat-Zinn once said that if you have a kiddo, just treat your life as an 18-year retreat. I was like, okay. And now, after I'm reading his book, I'm like, I'm treating all life as a retreat. And as you said, like, okay, if I feel nervous, what's happening in there?
Yeah.
If I got anxious, what's happening there? Or if I don't want something, I'm like strong aversion. Hey, what's happening in there? And being with people is really doing something special. It's changing, shifting in me. It's
Yeah.
it's something different that I cannot do it alone. It's yeah.
And I think again, just I'm thinking about the phrase on the spiritual path, if it isn't a paradox, it probably isn't true. So just to go back to the very beginning of our conversation, this teacher was able to allow my emotions, was able to show up
Mm.
with compassion, was able to give me space to begin to inquire what's really happening here and what do these vulnerable parts need? And it planted a seed, Muga. What if I can learn to do that for myself? And so the paradox is the connection with another person gave me a model for what I could learn to do, and then simultaneously acted as a reminder no matter how much of this you do, and I've seen so much change over the last 20 years in this arena, don't forget that that connection is still going to be critical, valuable, important, and that sometimes things are going to come up that are just beyond your range of resilience or window of tolerance. And you can observe the mind and heart with compassion and say, sweetheart, you're doing the best you can. You're tending to this well. And this is a moment to go talk to someone or ask for a hug. Or so we can learn from relationships, the relationships that are modeling what we want for ourselves. We can learn from those. Oh, what if I could show up for myself in this way? And simultaneously not forget that that's not the end goal. The end goal is to develop another way of walking through the world with awareness and care, and to do that both here and in partnership, collaboration, and connection with other human beings. So you might have noticed I'm particularly passionate about the power of human connection. And at one point, I was actually running an organization that focused on friendship skills development. And one of the pieces that we would discuss and that everyone would explore together is that the research shows in a strong friendship, strong, healthy friendship, there are three interrelated components or pillars. And I think it can just be helpful to keep these in mind. One is that there's a sense of uplift or uplifting the heart after you interact. So you might have just shared something very difficult, or you might have had a hard conversation, but most of the time afterwards, there's a sense for both of you of, oh, that was good for me. That was good for the heart. That was good for the whole, for the soul. I feel buoyed by this. So there's a sense of uplift. Then there's also a sense of consistency, which is another way of saying psychological safety. It doesn't mean you see each other all the time. But for example, you might have a dear friend you see once a year. You see each other every June, and you can trust that that person will respond to messages, help prepare for this trip, and that when you come together, they'll show up with kindness and love. So there's a consistent way of engaging that allows, again, for a safe enoughness that supports an uplifted heart. And then the last piece, which is really critical, especially I'm just thinking of your warrior woman metaphor, is sometimes called vulnerability, or what I think of as courageous mutual self-disclosure, where bit by bit, you're revealing more of what really matters to you, what's really moving through you, your joys, your sorrows, your insecurities. And the other person is meeting that with care, with integrity, with kindness. And then vice versa, you're doing the same. And so you've got an uplifting, consistent opportunity for vulnerability situation going on. And when we keep those three in mind, we can see, oh, I show up to a meditation class. I chat with someone afterwards. I feel uplifted. Also, they're interested in seeing me next week at the meditation class. And they share something at the end that allows me to feel like they want me to see a bit more of who they actually are. And I receive that with care and I respond accordingly. Maybe there's a friendship on the way, or as we would say in the meditation world, a spiritual friendship. So as we continue to journey on, my blessing for all of us is that we attune to the ways we can show up as a friend, a true friend, in a variety of different contexts and circumstances. And can we also have the courage and the vulnerability to allow others to show up for us and to allow others to see us in our full, beautiful, complex humanity?
Thank you very much, Alison. Really, yeah, it makes so much sense. And I think it's a very important topic that we touched today because, yeah, this 21st century epidemic, it's
loneliness, and we don't have to do it everything alone. We are capable, we are strong,
Yeah.
but it's good to be with others, getting support, being with very lovely, compassionate hearts, being
Yeah.
with them. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here, being with us, sharing your experiences.
Thank you, Yuka.
Thank you.